Welcome to the old man's corner. Grab a cup of coffee, pull up a chair, and have a listen. Back when I was in my teenage years, I had a bunch of friends we used to run around. We used to occasionally go down to Island Park, stay down there, and sometimes they'd play music down there, and sometimes we'd just go down there and sit and drive around. On the outside of the park, though, there was a dike built up. So, because the Timber Creek was on one side and um, Walnut River is on down there on the other side. Well, they had some roads that would go up there. You could drive up on the dike and then come back down a little further down. Well, one day, I think I was about 17, and my friends Don and Dwayne were there. They were probably 18. We were riding in Dwayne's dad's car. And Dwayne, he loved to listen to music. And he would tap his hands on the steering wheel as he was listening to the music when he was getting into the music. Well, this day we were driving along top of the dike. And we were going along and had the radio on. Me and Dwayne and Don were all sitting in the front seat. And he was listening to a American Woman on the radio, which was one of his favorite songs. So he was tapping his hands on the steering wheel, listening to the music, and we were talking and driving along, and look up there, and in the roadway there had been a little washout for some reason. So Dwayne kind of pulled over to dodge it, and when he did, we rolled off the backside of the dike. So next thing I knew, I was standing on my head looking at the ground, and then we came to a quick halt, and we were all there going, what the heck happened? And so we jumped out of the car, and yeah, sure enough, it had rolled off the side of the dike, and it was kind of a mess. And like I said, it was his dad's car, so I think he was really kind of worried about that. And well, we were all kind of shook up a little bit, so we climbed back up there on top of the dike and went down the other side. And some of the people that had been sitting in the park had said they saw us driving along on top of the dike, and all of a sudden we just disappeared. So they got concerned, and they were already heading that way, and they were standing down at the bottom of the dike when we come popping up on the top. Anyways, Dwayne wasn't real thrilled because he knew his dad was going to be quite upset. So he stayed there, and the rest of us left because didn't see any reason to stick around there for the police to come when Dwayne was going to have to be there because of the car. So Donnie and I left, and well, we went and did different things. I went walking around with some friends and stuff, and didn't think about going home because thinking people would report that to your parents that you were in an accident. So we went walking around and stuff, and then decided a little later, went back there, and they were pulling a car off the other side. Well, when you looked at it, you could tell that if it had rolled at least once, and then it had started to roll a little bit further, and on that one side, on the driver's side, there was a huge tree there. And if we rolled just one more roll, it would have just caved in the whole top of that car, and maybe we wouldn't be up and walking around. So as they had the tow truck dragging it up out of there, they were having a tough time. Couldn't figure out why it was so hard getting it back up that hill. So they kept trying to pull on it and tug on it and tug on it, and it just didn't want to come. So they went down, had to go up down there, and they lifted it up with jacks, and found out that it had, as it rolled, when it came to set, it had landed on this small tree. It punctured the gas tank, which held it in place and kept it from rolling over one more time. So I thought then, is that God's hand in this? Because if that little tree hadn't punctured that gas tank and made it stay right there, it would have rolled one more time and then crushed in the whole top of that car and maybe us as well. So sometimes God shows his hand, and very, very plainly. So if you ever have a story like this where fate has stepped in or God's hand has stepped in, and you realize that if not for whatever happened, you wouldn't be around this day. So if you have stories like that, drop it in the notes and down in the comments and let me know. These experiences are things that help us to grow and understand the many aspects of life and the many times that what we call fate, which could be the hand of God, has stepped in and saved us from things that would have been detrimental to our life. Well, I love y'all, and I appreciate you watching these videos. So you have a great day. Come on back and see me sometime.